سلام به انسانیت، اهل بشریت. خداوند شما را از گزن انسانهای پلید و از گزن روزگار کرونا در امان داشته باشه. امروز از روز جمعه ساعت 8:57 صبح. امید است که در نماز جمعه از دعایتان مردم افغانستان و مردم رنجیده که در دیار غربت زندگی می کنند در نمازتان از دعایتان دور نمانه و حقشان به حق همگی دعا بکنید. امروز مصاحبه داریم با آقای پیتر شنن، بخش روابط عامه نشنال گارد ایالات متحده امریکا که در سال 2008 تیمشان تا 2011 در ولایت کنر افغانستان فعالیت کردن در بخش زراعت و در بخش‌های دیگه که برای مردم عام مفید بود. آقای پیتر تا لحظت بعد همراه ما خواهد بودن. میخوایم که همه چیز پیش ستاب بکنیم که ببینیم که همه چیز ست هستن که اونا هم بیاین و معلومات بدن. برنامه کابل تا ساکرامنتو تحت تلویزیون کوثر هر هفته یکی از کارمندای ایالات متحده امریکا که در بخش نظامی و ملکی در افغانستان وظیفه اجرا کردن، اونا خواهم آمد و مصاحبه خواهم داد. درباره تجربهشان یا اکسپریانسشان از افغانستان صحبت خواهد کرد و آگاهی عامه خواهد داد که چقدر مهم است برنامه SAV و افغانستان در چی حالت قرار داشت و قرار خواهد گرفت. آقای پیتر همراه ما هست. Hi, Mr. Peter.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Nice to see you.
All right, very good. I'm sure I look terrific.
Yeah, here is like 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what time is over there.
It's noon.
It's noon. Okay, nice to see you. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to give us and talk about your experience from Afghanistan. And just I was watching your pictures. It's so amazing. And we would like to hear from you. And if you can give a little bit of information to our viewers about you and about your position.
Well, I'm a retiree. That's what I do now. At the time that the group I was with, the military unit, was the 734th Agribusiness Development Team. At the time that we were in Afghanistan between 2010 and 2011 for a period of 10 and a half months, I was an Air Force captain assigned to this unit, and my job was I was a public affairs officer. And in that role, my primary mission was to communicate to both internal and external audiences about what we were doing there to help the Afghan people.
Yeah, just now I was watching your pictures, which you took about it. So what the unit was doing in Afghanistan exactly? Is it a focus on agricultural development also?
It was. In fact, that was the primary focus of the team, was agricultural development. And we worked with a number of very committed Afghan partners to try and improve the ability of the Afghan government to deliver agricultural services to its people. That was our primary mission.
Yeah. You're based in Kunar province. So the Kunar province border to Pakistan and also nearby, so close to the Kurma Agency and other provinces. So what is your experience about that province? How was it the culture of the people? How was the people? And how was the food? And how was the city and the kids?
You know, the people were wonderful people. They were all folks who were trying to take care of their families, be better members of their communities, and in general, were trying to improve their conditions and circumstances. The challenge, of course, was that there was a real security issue. Wherever we went, security was an issue. And as one of the people that we worked closely with, Dr. Mohammed Ghalib, who is to this day, to my understanding, the director of agriculture in Kunar province. At the time, he was the chief veterinarian for the province. But Dr. Ghalib, I asked him one time, what do we need to do to be really effective here? And he said, my friend, you're in the wrong place. He said, all of the fighters, all of the bad people are coming from Pakistan. And he had a significant point. And so, to the extent that we were never able to help the Afghan government successfully control its own border, that had some knock-on effects in terms of security, which limited our ability to perhaps, and limited the ability of the good people in Kunar province who really wanted to improve their lives. It's hard to improve your life without consistent and predictable security.
Yeah. I have been in Kunar like 3 times and battle journalist with the Airborne 82nd and 101 team. I see how hard is it to work on that province and do agriculture especially. But it's so important for us, like American soldiers came to Afghanistan and invest $billion for infrastructure and development of Afghanistan. But unfortunately, in past like 4 years, we left behind everything. We came to, like I said, okay, we cannot provide peace on that country, but we cannot talk especially about all over the country. We are focusing in Kunar province. So how was the education process in Kunar? Like, is it school was open when you team work in Afghanistan and Kunar province or not?
There were schools that were open in Kunar province. The conditions from an American point of view were terrible. They would hold class oftentimes outdoors, and how they managed to keep the attention of children when you're sitting literally in an open space outdoors was nothing short of miraculous to me. Now, of course, the schools were segregated by gender, as you might expect. There were girls' schools and there were boys' schools, but there were schools and there were teaching. I obviously don't know if that's still the case 10 years later, but a decade ago, it was true that education was happening.
Oh, yeah. So as the agriculture team was giving a training to the local people to do grow up their business or not? Like your team.
We tried to help people improve their business. I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but that was a key part of the goal that we had, was to improve the ability of Afghan agriculture producers, Afghan farmers, to get their goods to market in a way that would allow them to make a profit. Because if you may or may not know this, but much of the the raw food that was being sold was actually coming from Pakistan, which is kind of funny because Kunar is a remarkably fertile area. Anything will grow there. And in the past, I came to understand from people who lived there that it used to be a tremendous province for flour production, for honey production, for almond production, for orange and other fruit production. And in fact, from a climatological standpoint, Kunar province is almost identical to the most productive agricultural country in the United States in terms of value, which is the Imperial Valley of California. Mm-hmm. And so Kunar, and you're in California now, so you understand. Yeah. It's very similar climate from a climate standpoint, from a scenery standpoint. It's really extraordinary. So it was always clear that the potential was there to generate a lot of income through agricultural production, particularly for high value items like fruit, nut, and vine. And I think if we'd had more time to focus on that, I think we would have ultimately been more helpful, or could have been more helpful.
Yeah, I saw your pictures which you took for Kunar province. I'm going to share it with the people if you give us like a little bit of information about it. The pictures are about security terms. How hard is it to make our convoys and go through? So Even I remember when we was leaving the base, we have to get a notify from our security until it's like a 10 hours. What is going on? So I know it's not easy, especially for American soldiers to go Conner Province and do agriculture on other side of Pakistan is trying to stop us. Have you noticed anything like during your mission in Conner Province, Pakistani influence to stop you guys to not do your work very well?
The answer to that question, Naweed, is no. It is interesting. Once we got outside the wire and actually did our work, we were never one time attacked while we were on the ground doing our work. Now, we were shot at a few times going from one place to another. And there were a couple of occasions where we were hit by IEDs when we were on missions to Jalalabad, when we were actually in Nangarhar. Both of the attacks that were successful against our convoys were in Nangarhar, not in Kunar. So while we were actually doing our work, we were never one time attacked. And I think that speaks to the fact that we were on a development mission, and that was known. That was known not only to the local populace, but it was also, I think, known to the local bad guys as well. And I think from their point of view, it would not have furthered their cause to attack people who were so obviously there to help, which we were.
Yeah. So what do you think about Afghan local language? Is it useful for your team to use them to communicate with the local villagers or not?
To be perfectly honest with you, Naweed, if I were to do that mission again, I would spend much, much, much more time focused on learning conversational Pashto, because there is no substitute for being able to speak at least a few words or a few phrases in the local language. And the reality is that I knew very few words. I do still remember how to say I'm sorry. At least this is how I was told to say I'm sorry. Bahana Waram. I'm sorry.
Bahana Waram.
But yeah. And Zeshu. Okay, Zeshu. But you know, other than that, those things have stuck in my head for the last decade. But we didn't know enough of the local language. And so there are limits to what a linguist is able to do for you. There are obviously always issues in translation. And I think that from an effectiveness standpoint, we would have been better served by having better knowledge of the language and better grasp of the language.
Yep. So, you know, you heard about SIV programs. Most of your team language, again, I think they're already in the United States. They came to the United States, or they're waiting for their visa. So, on your perspective, how important is to evacuate that people from Afghanistan to save their life?
From my point of view, It's absolutely essential. These folks put their lives on the line in a very real sense every day. I'll never forget, we were traveling down the road. I mentioned we were almost never shot at. One of the times that we were shot at, I was in the back of this MRAP with one of our linguists, and he knew just exactly, the gunner needed ammo fed up to him. He knew exactly what to do. My point is that these linguists also performed the roles of soldiers, and they demonstrated incredible courage, bravery, integrity, and loyalty to the United States. And it is only right that the United States answer that loyalty with what we promised them, which is the ability to keep them safe. And since we can't keep them safe if we're not there, then it is absolutely appropriate, right, and just that we should bring them here without unnecessary delay.
Yep. I saw you, one of the General Kimberry visit Conner Province, and you took a picture of General. So on that time, what you was thinking? The general is coming to Conner Province, the U.S. ambassador is visiting Conner Province. So you're far away from your family. If you see your high-rank people was coming, visiting you. So how was your feeling on that time when you took that pictures and with the villagers? And I see a lot of kids are around, the girls and boys. So could you a little bit explain about it, about your feeling on that time?
Well, in the military, anytime a high-ranking person comes, it's what's known as a dog and pony show, which means that everything has to be shown to them so that you can prove you're having an impact and they can see how their policy is being implemented on the ground. And this was an enormous dog and pony show when General Eikenberry came to Kunar province. He wanted to see all of the work that was being done, not just by our team. In fact, our team was the smallest part of that visit. He was really interested in getting briefings from the PRT, meeting with the provincial governor, and the kinetic army units that were there as well. So we had one little tiny time block to brief Ambassador Eikenberry at the Mandakal Nursery in Asadabad. And the problem was that he actually changed the location from where we were going to meet him and brief him. And his security team had already moved out. So the gentleman in some of those pictures is a guy named Neil Stockfleth, one of my friends from Iowa who was deployed on that team with me. He was the chief of the agriculture division. So he was in charge of kind of making sure that everything was implemented on the agriculture team. And what happened was General Eikenberry changed the schedule. So it's just Neil and I down there. And we had to walk across Asadabad to get to this meeting with General Eikenberry without security, just he and I. And so that was a little, perhaps a nerve-wracking experience to walk through Asadabad, just two Air Force guys, lightly armed.
Yeah.
But we made it eventually to where he was. So what it was like, it was brief. Ultimately, when these general officers or ambassadors, they're getting briefings, are they getting the full picture? Of course not. They're only getting a tiny portion of what's actually going on, but they're busy people and they have limited time.
Yep. On your perspective, now the United States government trying to withdraw the United States Army from Afghanistan, and they want to leave behind Afghanistan. So what do you think about it? Is it dangerous for local people, or is it very dangerous for the people who work on behalf of the United States government in Afghanistan?
All of the above. Yes. I mean, we were there for a reason. That reason didn't disappear the day that Osama bin Laden was killed. Otherwise, we'd all come home in May of 2011. But they left us there for another 10 years. And to be perfectly candid with you, in my opinion, there are really only two ways to do this. One is to say that, well, and this is the approach that we're taking, which is to say, well, we did our best and now we're leaving, good luck. But the other thing to do would be to say, we made a commitment as a nation to these people, to this country, and now it's inconvenient. Now, admittedly, we probably never found the most reliable Afghan partner in terms of a single leader who could lead Afghanistan free of corruption. I don't want to toss any stones at Hamid Karzai or Abdullah or any other Afghan leader, but the reality is that corruption was always a problem and was never brought under control. And if we look at the Afghan side of the ledger, that I think is where things have come off the rails, as it were, to use an American expression. That's where things broke down on the Afghan side, is that we could never find a leader who was not enmeshed to some degree in significant corruption, which created huge problems for our effort. But on the other side of the ledger, did we as a country make anti-corruption our top priority? Far from it. Far from it. So there's lots of responsibility to go around for the shortfalls in policy. But if the answer is to simply say the whole thing was a mistake, I disagree with that. I don't think that the whole thing was a mistake. I think it could have been done better. And I think it still yet could be done better today with the appropriate focus on smart security coupled with development. Now, that's the opinion of one person who was there for 10 and a half months, but it is my opinion.
Yep, my just last mission, which 2015, like insurgents occupy Kunduz province, north of Afghanistan for October. I assigned to the evacuation of 250 INL subcontractor employees from Badakhshan. But when I find out it's all the most corruptions and nationalism, racism is the cause we couldn't build that country. But it's still, if we decide to remain and stay in Afghanistan for 5 more years, on your perspective as a public affairs officer, like I know the journalists and public affairs officers have a more information than generals. They know more, they can understand and read the location more than anyone. What can the United States should do to stop the corruption and build that country again?
Well, what should we do to stop the corruption? First of all, I think we should have made clear from the outset that it would not be tolerated. And to insist that the Justice Department, the bureaucratic organs responsible for administering justice in Afghanistan, that we put significant policy focus on those. And, we had the power at any given point to say to Hamid Karzai, no, we're not going to do business like this. Did we ever do that? Did we ever lay down the law and say, we're not going to allow that? And if you continue to persist in this behavior, we're going to insist on a new leader. We had the power to do that, certainly, but we never did. And so I think that there has to be, hey, if we're going to stay longer, this is what we mean by anti-corruption. And here are our red lines for anti-corruption. Otherwise, we'll leave. Now, I think that this peace process, such as it is a sham. It's a fig leaf. It's a fig leaf to allow the American government to leave Afghanistan with some sense of mission accomplished. But the mission is not accomplished. It's far from accomplished. I've said when I was there, and I still believe, that we needed to make the same kind of 50, 60, 70, 80-year commitment that we've made to Germany, that we made to Japan, that we've made to South Korea. And we still honor those commitments. What is different today than was different then?
Yep.
I don't know.
What do you think if they assign you to go back to Afghanistan? Would you like to go back to Kunar province or not?
I would love to. I'd love to go now I'm retired, so a journey back as a guy in uniform is no longer in the cards for me. But I would love to go back in any capacity in which I could be of service. I'd love to go back to Kunar province. It's a beautiful place. And it's a place, there's no other place like it in the world. Now, my ideal goal, Naweed, would be to go back to Kunar province as a tourist with my family, so I could spend some good American money there and help improve the quality of life just from a commerce point of view, because there's so much to see in that province. It's a wonderful place. And that's a thing I think that most Americans never got the message on relative to Afghanistan. They think of Afghanistan as just some other country in the Middle East. It's not in the Middle East at all. It's in Southwest Asia. It's a totally different geography. Are there some parts of Afghanistan that contain deserts? Yes, it's the size of Texas. Texas has some deserts in it. But are there also some beautiful, just absolutely mind-blowing locations in terms of natural beauty? You bet. And that was one of the things I tried to capture in the photos and the videos that I took while I was there, the extraordinary natural beauty of that province. It was something that I will remember for the rest of my life.
What do you think? Can we just started from over to go back current province and build each state or province separately, take times? Is it possible for our soldiers or our development team on like 2022 should go back to Kunar province and do agriculture development team? I know security is so tight and Kunar is full of insurgents right now. According of my intel information and my stingers on the local, like last night, I contacted one of my locals in the Kunar province to get a little bit of information. This is very hard for the people who work with the government and who work with the armies to walk around and Kunar province, but it still is very dangerous. My question is that, what do you think just the United States focus on Kunar province to develop agriculture? So like Kunar is like a California. In terms of economy, is it important for government or not?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I mean, the reality is that agriculture is still a dominant source of revenue of Afghan gross domestic product. Agriculture is enormously important to Afghanistan in terms of helping it develop into a more modern society. Agriculture is key because it is such a productive place. And the products that can be produced out of Kunar in particular are high value product. All of those things that I mentioned, honey, flowers, fruit, nut, and vine, all of that is very high dollar, high margin kind of good. So it could bring a lot of money into Kunar province, no doubt about it. I mean, the other thing is that, and I mentioned this, but it's absolutely true. We talked about it 10 years ago. If you had appropriate security in Kunar, it could be an amazing tourist destination. Just, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I've been to a few places on earth. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions to ask, but I know everyone have a limit time. So what is your message for Kunar people, the people who are already in California, Virginia, or the people who are in the process of the visa to come to United States? What is your message for that people? And what's your message for Kunar local people, which you work directly with them?
Well, so those are two different groups of people. I will say, first of all, for the folks who are on their way here on special access visas, I would say thank you. Thank you for all that you did to help our effort in Afghanistan. And it was appreciated. It was valued. And we could not have done anything productive without the help of our linguists and our Afghan partners. So thank you. That's my message to those who are coming here. And the other thing I would say is that, once you get here, we've got a lot of security, but all you have to do is turn on the news to figure out that we're not a perfect society either. So we look forward to your contributions in making the United States a better place, because the United States is nothing if not a work in progress. And so it's the contributions of people who come to the United States from other places that ultimately take us in a better direction as a country. So thank you in advance for all that you're going to do to make America a better place.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And here's what I would say to the people in Kunar province that we worked with, which is that I wish we could have done more. I wish we could have done more. And I hope that we will. I hope that we will. But whether we do or not, and I said this at a meeting one time, the meeting was about to go off the rails because we had a couple of guys who were talking who just weren't saying the right things. And I got up and I said, hey, look, I said, we appreciate you. We know that you are strong, and we respect the fact that you are willing to learn to improve the quality of life for your family and for your province. Thank you. And that's still true today. Thank you for all of that you are doing to improve the lives of your family and to improve the quality of life for everyone in your province. I saw it and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. We will follow up. So also about your organization and profit you open about the Warriors. We will talk about that more. So thank you so much. I know you're also have a limit time to go back to work and I have to, but honestly, the Kunar people already they are happy for this interview to hear from one of the soldiers which been with them for 10 months and still they remember. I mean, still when I'm visiting more of the soldiers and the colonels and major generals, they are talking about Afghanistan, and most of people have flag of Afghanistan and Afghanistan map on their rooms. And I have said, okay, you spent 6 months. You came back. Is you left this country? They say, no, we spent 6 years, not 6 months. That much American soldiers love Afghanistan. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for your hard working in the counter-prevents. And I know it's not easy, but we really appreciate for your services, what you guys did for Afghanistan. As an Army freelance journalist, I never ever forget. I know it's not easy to be far away from your family. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter, for interview. And I hope you can receive more comment from people about this interview to see what they are expecting and what they received from this interview.
Well, Naweed, thank you. It was good to talk to you, and perhaps we'll do it again.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter. Thank you. See ya.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.